Ready, camera, mark.
I love Wolfgang's movies, and I've never done a movie like this.
This is so humongous.
You can't help but get wrapped up in the enormity of these sets.
We work with 7 cameras at the same time.
I call it the Gone with the Wind, bygone era of Hollywood filmmaking.
When the original movie came out in '72, I mean, it was really the first killer disaster movie.
They were all a bit unrealistic, a bit campy, but they were excitement. Now it's all up to us to come up with something completely new and different.
You can't think of this as a remake. It's got much more passion of this filmmaker underneath it, that's for sure.
I'm always excited to work with Wolfgang because he's a great director to work with. And you're always interested why he takes on whatever project he takes on, and he just felt sort of filled out a trilogy for him of water pictures.
The first being Das Boot, the second being A Perfect Storm, and the third being Poseidon.
The difference here was rather than Navy men who are trained to be in that environment, or fishermen who are also ready for something like that. This was just people like you and me in that situation, and that's quite a different response.
This is a journey into madness. It's really so scary that I would say it's like marching right into hell.
Paul Gallico, who wrote Poseidon Adventure. How I believe he came up with the idea is that in 1937, Paul was on the Queen Mary. They were in a huge storm in the Atlantic. A rogue wave had, in fact, hit the boat, but it wasn't a rogue wave as big, big enough as in the movie to, flip the thing over. But it was enough to make pretty much the entire ship and crew very, very sick.
Rogue waves, or they're also referred to as extreme waves or freak waves, are extraordinarily sized waves that stand out among the other waves, and usually in the open ocean. It's estimated by the British and Norwegian shipping industry that approximately 1 ship per year is lost in the North Atlantic due to a rogue wave.
When you start doing research about rogue waves, you become fascinated and you become terrified. It's an entirely valid concept that it could do this.
Let's go right away, please.
And do a good one, the writer is here.
I did read the book. I did watch the original film.
We wanted to make it brand new.
It was not easy to get a story that is not a remake of the old Poseidon Adventure, because we didn't want that. Why shall we do another Shelley Winters character? No, she was great. We said, no, we only use the basic idea of a gigantic, big, luxurious ship being caught by an enormous wave and capsizes.
When we got to a point where there was a very strong outline, they were storyboarding sequences, they were doing designs for the ship.
One of the bigger challenges was that our script wasn't complete and we needed to move forward, because that meant you had to make calculated decisions on what to build, what not to build, and you were going to have to live with those. And there was a lot of different incarnations of the script as we went. And then we also went through and we start to look at, the puzzle right from the beginning. How are you going to do it? Where are you going to do it? How much cooperation are you going to get from outside? Can you use a real ship?
2 reasons for not shooting on a real cruise ship. For one, we're only upright for about 10 minutes. And then it's upside down, and I somehow don't think cruise lines would appreciate that.
We had originally thought we might shoot it down in Mexico in the tank that was down there, because certain parts of it would have been a good fit down there, but that tank wasn't available, so we came right back to Warner's.
The interesting thing for me on this film is we will shoot 1 exterior day on this entire film, which we shot in pre-production.
In 3, 2, 1, action!
We're here at the Sepulveda Dam today. Today we're shooting a live-action element, our hero actor, running on the deck of a ship. And we don't have a real ship for him to run on, so we need to photograph him running on what amounts to a facsimile of the ship's deck.
The opening shot is a 2.5 minutes shot that is the most complicated, challenging, costly, longest, without any cut, 2.5 minutes shot in the history of motion pictures. Eilem has never done anything like it, and that means nobody has done anything like it.
To put a human on a
CG vessel at sea is about as sophisticated as it comes.
Amazing.
It's just fantastic.
That was interesting, and I have to say I had never done a shot quite like that, but it went off like clockwork, and it was a great combination of using sort of old Hollywood technique and very, very modern technique, because in the shot you have the cable cam and it's driven by all these computers, but the green screens that we had were all pushed by grips, so you'd have like 6 guys pushing a big wall around right behind the camera right before it turned around. So it was a combination of like this old style manpower and brand new, technology.
The ship has just turned around and you just landed in that position you are.
Wolfgang came up with the idea that if he could, he'd like to shoot as much of this movie in continuity.
We wanted to be able to work through in continuity because it gave us the ability to actually see the progression of how things were falling apart, how people got hurt, how their wardrobe was falling apart.
In normal circumstances, when a director comes to me and says he wants to shoot a movie in continuity, I look at him, I smile, I go back to my office, I close the door, and I'll throw something. But in this case, though, it was interesting.
We figured out a way to do it.
We were able to get ahead of ourselves in terms of building, and we could build out this show and get it built in such a way that Wolfgang could shoot in a continuity order. The next set was always ready. Now, because we only had 5 stages, we knew that once we were done shooting one set, we had to get that set the heck off that stage and build another set in its place. So there was a lot of juggling on weekends and nights of striking sets, building sets, redressing sets, so that they'd be ready on the day, continuity-wise, that we needed to be in there.
The idea was, from the very beginning, to build real sets. I think for everybody, especially for the actors, it is just really a difference if they stand in front of just blue walls with a door here and a door there and the rest is all imagination, or if they really are in a gigantic ballroom and having fun. That told us we have to go for the real deal. We build the ballroom, we build the lobby, build all these big sets, and create a very realistic environment.
The most surreal moment of the movie is when the whole group, we walk out onto this balcony overlooking the entire upside-down lobby, and there's steam, and there's sparks, and there's water.
Wow. Wolfgang decided to play Zarathustra from Strauss, the 2001 music.
And we all sat there, and it was very hard for us not to lose our mind with both an incredible excitement and an awe about the scope and tragic madness of it all.
Well, New Year's is never what you expect, is it?
But because we just shot this movie in continuity, and the first chunk of the movie is just playful, wild party. And I remember coming to work one day and turning to Wolfgang and saying, I'm just having the time of my life. Happiest time of my life. And I knew in the back of my mind, it's gonna change. It's gonna get hard.
I tell them it's tough. I tell them really we go for it. We go for the reality of it.
Come on, Mom. It's easy.
Whatever you can do, I would like you to do it. And it's always the same reaction. We wanted to do it ourselves.
I do most of the stunts, so whatever stunts I can't do, I'm pretty bummed out. Here we go!
We really did all of our own stunts, and you can really see us in those moments, in those situations.
We're doing some really great physical action with the actors. They're jumping and running. They're crawling through small spaces. They're swimming.
My character basically is soaking wet for the entire time.
We were 20 feet above the ground, and I said to myself, what are you doing here? It's like as if it was the real thing, so it's tough.
So you'll swim up to that, push the chair out of the way, open up, the dummy kind of hanging right over there.
Anytime you can have an actor perform and get that action and that reaction from an actor right in the middle of it all, I mean, that's, to me, that's exciting.
They were a real game group of people. We did do a lot of practice work with people who felt they wanted to work with scuba ahead of time. We had classes in that.
JV passes.
He passes. We put a little happy face.
Nice.
It's hard.
It is hard to swim in close. That's why it's good not to
That's why it's good not to be on a ship that sinks, huh?
What I learned on this, which I didn't have any idea about, was it'll say like one line of a description of what becomes a stunt. It could take a week to shoot.
There's a scene with Jacinda where she's caught by an enormous wall of water. And it's Jacinda. And she's flying through the corridor on the top of that wave. And she did it. She did it twice.
In that grand lobby, there's a pool of fire. And sort of madly, I said, you know, I wanted to swim under the pool of fire. You know, I want to do that. I really would love to be able to figure out a way to shoot so that you're not using a stunt person. And stupidly, I would go home after work, after being in water all day long, and swim back and forth underneath the water of my pool and, you know, literally hold my breath for as long as I possibly could. And sort of hoping that eventually I could convince them to let me swim under this fire. And I tell you what, it was hot. It was hot, it was terrifying, and I hallucinated for about 3 hours afterwards. I was actually having fun today until I got panicked.
Totally changed it.
Totally did. I went from being in great mood to absolutely terrified.
We worked hard to really forget everything what is sort of actorish, forget about makeup, forget about all the vanity you normally have. I mean, it was underwater, above water. They do it, and they are very afraid doing it, and you see it. That makes it so exciting, I think.
Okay, here we go, please. And
take camera mark. Camera mark. Take camera mark.
I've never worked on a movie before that was shot the way Wolfgang shot this one with John Seale, and 5 cameras was the standard fare.
John Seale is a great cinematographer. I just love to work with him. I did Perfect Storm with him, and thank God I did this one with him because he's a perfectionist now with these sort of 3, 4, 5 camera systems.
As you know, we have 5 or 6 cameras now going with long lenses, meaning we got much closer into faces, into the action, everything.
The approach to shooting this film was that knowing that the actors were going to be put through an extremely physical challenge every day, I thought that what would help them a lot was to be able to cover as much as I could each take, because, you know, over 5 months or so of shooting, it would drain them.
Assholes, both of you.
We started off fairly conservatively with sort of 2 cameras a lot, but we quickly worked up to 3 and eventually moved up to 4 and 5 and occasionally 6 cameras. And we got rather bold in the end because we were actually setting up almost entire scenes with, you know, 4 or 5 cameras that we would shoot in one hit.
It's kind of great because you don't have to go back and try to recapture a feeling in different angles.
For a film like this, where so many things can happen, and actors have that one great moment here that will never come back because it so much has to be improvised and is physical and reacts just because it happens here. The actor did that, and we have it.
If you really boil it down, though, the camera operators on this film were actually documentary cameramen, chasing the action as it happened.
What we get with that is we get a very real feeling situation. Also, actors, they sometimes even don't know that the camera's watching from here and from there and from there.
There are cameras everywhere, and it almost became like a Where's Waldo game for all of the actors, because when the set is so vast and they're getting close-ups from so far away, it's like, where are the cameras? I see 3. Does anybody see them? Oh, there's one over there.
I'm gonna be bummed out, you know, in the next movie is like 1 camera and you're like, where are my other 4 cameras?
The other thing that is most remarkable was Wolfgang's comfort in the face of tremendous chaos.
When it comes to a movie like this, like, you don't really get anybody more experienced or better than Wolfgang. He knows how to deal with extras and all of the stunt guys.
I think at various times we probably had 1,200 people in and around the set, including at times we had up to 400 extras. When you have that many extras, You have this whole city of tents out in base camp and hair and makeup. Because people are injured and killed in the movie, they have to go through an extensive makeup and hair process.
Some of the specific things that we're doing with these people is we're imagining the ship turning, chairs hitting them, coffee cups hitting them, glass, people rolling through the chandeliers.
They airbrushed wonderful wounds on people, and they put fake bones and putting holes in their heads, and there were people walking around on the set with bones sticking out of their pants, and then go into commissary and get some food. Anyway, it was great fun.
The extras also have to be fit for multiple costumes.
The costumes was something that was thought through, sketch design, because all of those costumes all had to be made in such a way that they were aged, they were destroyed.
We had a team of 10 agers that worked 12 hours a day, aging all these multiples to make 3 of a kind with the same cut, the same tear, the same burn.
Well, first I went over it with some paints and got it to look dusty and a little burn. Then went over it with razor blades and put the cuts in it.
The principal costumes was a different matter. We had 75 shirts for Josh Lucas.
So this is just supposed to be like a lot of sweat and grime that's going on.
You're having to say, okay, we are now an hour and 45 minutes into this boat sinking. What room have they just gone through? What grease do they have? What fire has burned the shirt?
Being able to pretty much go in sequential order has allowed the wardrobe department to be, I think, much more accurate.
Gosh, look at my wardrobe. Aren't I just a mess right now? This is just insane.
30 dresses for Jacinda, 40 tops for Emmy.
To think that they had special clothing for us made so we could swim in them, and had fake shoes made, and they have these little vents in the bottom of Mike's shoes to let the water out. It's really just, it's so unimaginable.
Hard to starboard engine, full of start!
What was really amazing about the wave is it's a huge wave, and it's got to hit and it's got to fill every void and every cavity on the surface of the ship, and there are many. And water is one of the most difficult things to do in visual effects. You're dealing with very complex simulations that, I mean, the US government, with all their supercomputers, still has a hard time dealing with water. And we employed the services of Stanford University, their computer graphics department, to help us deal with it. There is a process that we go through to create this wave, and it's sort of the beginning of it is just listening to what Wolfgang, our director, had in mind, and what he was trying to achieve with it. And in this particular case, the fundamental directives for me were to outstorm the perfect storm, which of course he directed, and then to kind of out-Titanic the Titanic. And we needed to take this movie to another level.
They want absolute realism, and at the same time, they want to be able to take it to 11 and make it look really, really so over the top that people are, absolutely entranced by the way that this wave develops. So we've got a whole bunch of software developers, a whole bunch of technical artists, and fine artists as well, working on creating every little component of that.
The water starts off kind of looking like a big vat of jelly, and it gets more and more detailed and more refined until ultimately there are something like 12 or 14 layers of water, foam, mist, spray.
It's going to give us a dynamic to the shots that you've never ever seen before.
The amazing thing about this movie is that we have dealt with more water than anybody has ever dealt before on a stage.
Well, the water is almost a character in this film. I mean, it's chasing them throughout the ship. It starts flooding the ballroom.
What we're going to do is send 90,000 gallons of water into our ballroom, our inverted ballroom.
The first challenge was, how are we going to do that? It's full of 150 to 200 people, and the water has to rush in and take them all out. So we did dump tank test. We actually put 9,000 gallons of water coming out of a cylinder and slamming into you.
Behind the set, we had 100,000 gallons of water. What we'll do to hold the water back is we use tempered glass. This is the scary part. Throughout the shoot, when we had the actors and everybody in the ballroom, we used 3/4-inch tempered glass, and it's just practically indestructible. But when we did the dump, we wanted the glass to bend. So we went all the way down to 1/4-inch thick tempered glass.
We have designed this in such a way that the windows will not all come at once.
Each window had to blow at a certain point, so we choreographed which window was going to go first per our camera positions. After we blow all the windows, our 90,000 gallons of water, out in this environment, we will have stunt people on ratchets, and then we combine those two pieces together for the master shot.
So we have 10 cameras, right?
10, yeah.
Then we have another little camera in here.
It's a 2x6 wall. It should hold up.
You're kind of on edge. In that time between you've loaded the tanks and you're waiting for the director to say action, you're really just a nervous wreck because you feel like if you walked in front of those windows, that they were just going to burst at any time.
All right, I'm ready.
Good job, John.
That was quite something, and we were not really sure what it would do because it is a lot of water. So we're all on the other side upstairs looking down and sort of holding on and seeing where the next pillar is that you can hold on just in case it smashes our little platform.
You know, it was so surreal for me that I have to see the playback. It was like so much to take in.
That was exciting. I wish we would have sold tickets to that.
I feel that this could be a benchmark of Hollywood filmmaking.
Wolfgang is always trying to push the envelope.
Those are the things that Wolfgang strives for that I think are really fun to be a part of.
What I love about this movie is it totally delivers on its promise. You know, it's 1,000 thrills, and it's exciting and heart-pounding, and it's just a great night at the movies.
It's called Poseidon for a reason. It's a big character in the movie.
It's hard to build things upside down.
Of course, the most fun is when everything is smashed to pieces.
The sets were so authentic and can move and collapse. There's sort of a wild ballet to this movie.
The greatest thing about Hollywood is when they really go balls out. It's what you're in the movies for.
You feel that? Something's off.
The whole thing about the new Poseidon is to really take advantage of the drama of real sets.
Shooting on a real ship was a little bit more problematic than one might think because no one was that interested.
There probably isn't a cruise company in the world that would let us shoot our movie.
The whole ship turns upside down in this tidal wave, and everything is destroyed.
We were able to get people who would do it, but it was always on a smaller ship. And one of the things we wanted on this particular movie, wanted our ship to be, you know, the cutting edge, the biggest, the newest, the best. So to do that, we finally decided we would create the ship.
When Wolfgang asked us to go on this, I mean, we're intrigued just by the nature of the huge design challenge to find a new angle on what a cruise ship looks like.
The first Poseidon adventure basically used the Queen Mary as its boat, and they didn't really do anything to change it. Ours is relatively the size of that kind of ship. It's 1,100 feet long and about 16 decks high. So it's a big ship. We wanted to take it a couple steps further. We wanted to give it some, make it more sleek, a little more futuristic, make it not necessarily a boat from today, but maybe from 5 years from now.
We like to think it's amped up a little bit. It's a better looking ship, state-of-the-art ship. It's a ship that could never sink, but unfortunately, something happens to it.
One of the challenges of this movie that I don't think anyone really anticipated just how hard it was going to be is the fact that 3/4 of our sets are upside down.
In upside-down world, you can imagine how disorienting it is.
And that presents a lot of logistical issues. Floors become ceilings, ceilings become floors.
This is intriguing to the director, but horrifying for the art department to try to bring it to life.
It's confusing. You know, you find yourself in conversations constantly where you're saying, well, they're going up, which by that I mean they're going towards the floor, which is now down.
All of a sudden you have staircases which are no longer functional, and you have stairs which have become slides. So it takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around that sort of situation.
I think it's going to be more clear when we remove just a few things here.
One thing I did learn is you've got to build a model. You've got to build an upside-down model and a right-side-up model.
It's a way for Wolfgang to look at the set and to sign off on the design before actually putting hammer to nail and spending millions of dollars.
Wolfgang wanted to live inside a controlled environment so that he could do whatever he wanted with that camera.
We eventually came up with a plan that we could shoot it all at the Warner's lot. And with 5 stages, you have a lot of flexibility from moving. You can be doing construction on one and shooting on another. We're shooting on 2 stages and doing construction on 3.
There's no substitute, really, for building a big, beautiful set with real flames and real water.
We have a total of about 53 sets. 1, 2, 3, go! The elevator shaft was kind of an interesting set because it's really only about 10 by 10, but it's 40 feet in the air. So if you can appreciate the director trying to have all these actors in this very confined space, it's pretty interesting. My favorite set on the show is actually the thruster room and the thruster port, which is behind us right now. And that's where our heroes escape the end of the movie. And it's kind of fun stuff, you know, because we're building these huge motors, huge blades. We made them turn.
The first set we shot in was the grand ballroom, and it's an amazing set.
It's so cool to work in a ballroom with hundreds of people and all the glamour of a great ballroom with an orchestra and people all so well dressed.
To me, this is a dream come true. Any art director would say that, but to design something like this, it's classic big-time filmmaking. We're on the second level here, and you get the whole sense of the grandeur of the ballroom. It hasn't been painted yet or finished, but you can imagine the beautiful tables and the waiters and beautiful people coming down the stairwells here.
The Grand Lobby is this epic set, to say the least. It is a 7-story grand lobby of a cruise ship, a massive cruise ship.
I would say that was 220 degrees of an ocean-going mall. I mean, we had 10 shops that were absolutely gorgeous, and some of the shops we used were actually real vendors, and, you know, it was pretty interesting.
The other major set in the film was the shot at the Staples Center, which, of course, is the big sports arena here in Los Angeles, which was our nightclub. And they have a beautiful nightclub. It has the curves and angles and lines, and Bill Sandell liked the color and the color scheme of the place. And so we went there to shoot the nightclub right side up. And then we took their nightclub and built it upside down here at Warner Brothers and, well, pretty much trashed it.
It made it a lot easier for us to find things that were already built. The galley, for instance, was the commissary at the Warner Brothers lot, real convenient. It allowed us to have more time, more freedom, and more money to do the upside-down part.
Wolfgang's been waiting for this. 8 days of mayhem.
To go in one day and see the right side up set and go in the next day and see it completely upside down with everything matched perfectly, it's sort of mind-blowing.
Wolfgang wanted to have a real feel as if you were really there. You wouldn't want to kind of make this up as, okay, let's pretend that, let's do this, you know.
Eventually the stairs will be going up to the floor. There'll be pianos hanging from the ceiling, people hanging from the ceiling, all falling into this beautiful chandeliered area down here.
In the normal world, everything heavy sits on the floor. Only in our world, the floor is at the top.
Wow.
You are inside of the grand lobby of an upside-down cruise ship that is on fire. There are massive waterfalls. cascading all around you.
One of the big things in the lobby is that all the railing that's supposed to protect you is on the ceiling. So when you build it and you look at it for the first time, you say, oh, I can see this is going to be a problem. How are we going to deal with this?
Everything basically has to be gutted just to make everything as lightweight as possible to hang from the ceiling.
Everybody who's there, all the actors have to be tethered off. Our crew has to work behind barricades. If they go outside of the barricades, we have to, tether them off so they can't work right next to the edge.
All of these windows that you see here will be blown out by our special effects department with water gushing in and sweeping people across the floor.
Obviously, it's Poseidon, so we're in the water from the very beginning, and then we're deeper in the water as we go along. So one set after the other needs to have some water element in it.
Water always complicates the sets because they have to be built so that you can repeatedly do the same type of work without coming apart, and they have to be extraordinarily strong because when you dump thousands of gallons of water on something, it has a tendency to break if you don't do it right.
I mean, that sounds silly, but that's a huge issue for an art department, how to do things that react to water correctly, how to work with sets that don't bob to the surface because they're not built correctly, paint and carpeting that doesn't react well underwater.
As the ship is hit by this rogue wave and is turning over, we can at any time cut into any of the different rooms on the ship and see what it's like as it's flipping over. The way we do that is we build small pieces of these sets. We put them on our tilting platform. We could create the idea that we are in this enormous set and we are seeing it flip over.
It's all real. It crashes around, and you can go very extreme with it.
When the wave hits and our set begins to roll and then become an upside-down set, all of that furniture, the tables, the chairs, lamps, anything that's going to be flying through screen with our stunt people, those will become action props.
You have stuff flying over. You have to make all these breakaways, make sure that our actors, our stunt people don't get hurt.
You're inside these situations where it is actually collapsing around you and the walls literally are imploding.
When that happens, you got to be aware of what's around you, where people are going to fall, what's going to fall on you.
Okay? Yeah. Everyone's good.
For the ballroom, I've ordered, $80,000 worth of crystal and china breakaways. I'm spending $50,000 on breakaway tables and chairs.
That'll be the fun part about it, is ruining all the stuff that I have made out here for months and just tossing it in a big pile in the grand ballroom.
It's kind of sad to see it all trashed like this, but I guess that's the nature of the beast, right?
It's Poseidon, the most beautiful ship you can imagine in the beginning, and it turns into a real bad monster.
Hey, my name is Malona Voigt. I just graduated from film school, and today I'm a production assistant on the big budget movie Poseidon here at Warner Brothers. And what have I learned about making movies? Come with me and I'll show you what it's like to be on set. First things first, you gotta know who you work with, so you gotta have a party.
Well, so we always start off with a little barbecue.
The hardest thing so far, deciding what kind of beer we're going to have at the barbecue.
Well, we've got plenty of this here to keep us going.
I can hardly wait to work on some.
I am so glad to finally be on a picture that's going somewhere, thank heavens.
What are your final comments before the production?
Ships ahoy. The next 85 days will be challenging, exciting, fun, crazy. Anchors away. The real secret is to make sure everybody keeps smiling.
Better bring a life raft with you.
One thing that I noticed at the barbecue was that there were so many people. If you have a student film, you have a director, you might have a DP, an editor. If you're crazy enough, you put some visual effects in there and you have visual effects people. But here, I saw so many people, and I was starting to wonder, who are the rest of these folks, and what do they do?
What we have is about 20 makeup artists taking care of 70 injured people. It's just a matter of getting a little blood on everybody, some cuts. It's a lot of fun. This is what we do, and we have a good time doing it.
You have to have a video village that all the cameras are connected to monitors and that Wolfgang can see what's happening on each different monitor.
You think of it like a little grass hut where everybody sits in front of a bunch of monitors to watch the video that I bring from the camera to them so they can keep an eye on what's going on all the time. Yes, it looked good on the first try.
The light hasn't been manipulated or dimmed down to a certain level or turned off or flickered. Anything like that, I'm told over the radio what they want to do, and I program it, and then we see it on film.
You have so many ADs, that might have been one thing that I found quite amazing.
You need a name tag, milady. How do we spell? M-A-L-O-N-A.
Yeah. They always have to be cheerful, they always have to keep everything moving, and they did.
You're looking at the second grade spelling bee champ of everything.
We're decorating the set with all the dead. We're just dressing up the set with dead bodies in various states of brokenness, just kind of dressing the Christmas tree with the bulbs.
I take stuff from here to there. Sometimes I do it slow, sometimes I do it fast. Serious job. We take our job very serious.
Ah, let me go, please don't hurt me, don't hurt me.
I think a lot of bonding and a lot of friendship happened.
Tell me, who's the most important person on the film?
I have to say it's me.
The accountants.
The movie doesn't happen unless I answer every call and get every drive on. And
Without accountants, the bills don't get paid, the director doesn't get paid, I don't get paid.
if you can't get on the lot, you can't make a movie. That's what I think.
On a student film, you often have family and friends and crew members be your background. On this film, we had hundreds and hundreds of background extras.
Gently down the stream.
I am an injured businessman.
The security officer.
The woman on the cell phone.
I am playing a waiter.
I was very happy to play the wine steward.
My role is just simple, a dead person.
I want to say that we had, I think, 200 background extras. Yeah, we had maybe 10 on my film.
My first lines were to Richard Dreyfuss, which was an honor.
1988.
Very well, sir. And then I got to do a lot of screaming.
Wolfgang just walked up to me and grabbed my hand and said, "It's time for you to have a line." So it was pretty exciting.
I've been doing it for 40 years. So it's been very interesting.
Every day I get to learn something new by watching everybody who does their jobs.
The explosion and dialogue scene with the captain was really thrilling.
That felt like a galley. Gas shutoffs must have malfunctioned. So the doors open. Will they keep the fire out? Yes, Captain.
It's great to be a part of history here. I could die tomorrow and be a happy man.
It's just good to be working, you know?
To keep track of all these different people and what they're doing, you have endless meetings.
Right now we're seeing a very typical scene here. Wolfgang is talking to John Seal and also to John Woodward. What I find quite amazing is that they all come together in the morning.
That little meeting at the beginning of the day is simply to clarify what we're going to shoot in that scene. Then the actors arrive, and if they've got changes, then we can very quickly and easily absorb those changes.
It all pays off, all of those meetings that everybody hates to go to. I hate those, but I love them because I learn something every time we do these meetings.
On a student film, you save every penny and you look under every stone to make your film happen. Here, you sometimes feel the sky is the limit.
Well, first step is ask for the money. Second step is spend the money.
And you spend it on what?
Well, I had my house painted.
What you're looking at behind us here is 9 10,000-gallon tanks.
We have 20,000 gallons of water coming out of these 2 dump tanks.
700,000 pounds of water.
The most fun about it is building bigger and bigger camera rigs to put the lens in places that it's never been before.
You know, it's pretty impressive, these giant towers that can then support a camera that becomes totally airborne.
They were having this idea of how cool would it be if a swimming pool would flip over on the boat. That wasn't scripted at all. And so 3 weeks later, we have John Fraser introducing me to the swimming pool. There's no way that you could just have that idea and realize it on a smaller budgeted film.
This about 3 weeks ago was just up in here and up in here. And
Pretty much if he can dream it up, we can figure out a way to do it.
The average budget of a student film is probably the size of the craft service budget of Poseidon, but for 1 week.
So, Malona, tell me, did you actually pick these berries from your own garden?
I did, this morning, 4 a.m.
For the whole crew?
We never had that in Australia. We used to just break for morning tea and have some very sort of dry, stale sandwiches at probably, I think it was about 9 o'clock.
Wow.
What's that? Now you get this food, sugar and stuff all day. It's fantastic.
Generally, I get between 2 and 3 donut holes.
I'm burning my bagel as we speak.
Maybe a little yogurt.
I'm going to make sure I'm in his business because crap soup.
One thing I didn't have on my production was 11 a.m. soup.
At 11 o'clock, everybody gets kind of a little cranky. Why is that? I think you need something to eat.
It's all about the soup, you know. This picture is all about the soup.
He's very picky with the soup, so he rates it. If it's not good, he gives it, you know, he'll say, this is a 7, this is a 6, we can't have this kind of soup anymore.
I would leave the stage if it's a 1.
Nick, who was our craft service guy, he would go to great extremes to make sure that we had, like, you know, new and different soups every day.
Yeah, not the crappy slippers, the lobster tail.
And, you know, he'd wear the rating around every day.
So today we're going to bring the soup in and see what Wolfgang grades it. My prediction, 9. 8. 8. I was off.
It starts to get really interesting at about 8.
We're going to have a little espionage here. Here's what we're going to do. You got to, like, hey, in the morning, hey, Wolfgang, I don't know, if there was a soup that you really wanted today, what would it be? That kind of stuff. I need your help, and I'm willing to kick you down some money.
it's a 9.
Whoa! That is quite impressive. Thank you, sir.
Good soups.
All right. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Have you ever rated a soup 10?
No. So I woke up and I said to myself, I said, Nick, what does it take to get a 10 on this soup? So I go online last night, Google GermanSoups.com, up comes veal goulash.
The clam chowder is a 10. I tested already the veal goulash soup. That's another 10, believe it or not.
You know I got a 10 on the soup.
I'm done.
No, I did. I got a 10. Oh, really? First 10 in the history of Wolfgang's career, I think.
Oh, God, this soup is so funny. It's funny. But people love it. They like it.
On a set like this, you have a lot of different personalities, so it's important to be respectful and not have a big ego.
First of all, I didn't understand the name The Poseidon Adventure. I really felt it should be Dylan's Big Adventure. Wolfgang, cracks a whip like any man I've ever seen in my life. He just lacks a pleasant working atmosphere.
He's always being Mr. Diva. He demands green M&Ms always, you know.
I think I'm out of stuff here. I mean, I can't work without proper lubrication.
Just like in film school, the last day of shooting is a welcoming moment, but also a sad occasion. You absolutely bond with people. They're the little things. They're the little things that make you really want to stay with those people.
You think you can do that?
Yeah.
Way back. Now.
I think at the end I was done with getting up at 5:30 and staying until 9 p.m. But would I do it again? Absolutely.
Do you have any tips for a young filmmaker?
You have to lead.
You are the captain of the ship.
No matter how much you starve, you have to commit because then other people believe your commitment as well.
Allow as much creativity as possible.
Always shoot as much coverage as you possibly can.
For God's sakes, don't get in the film business if you're not prepared to share your vision.
Think big and shoot for the stars.
So, working on Poseidon has been an incredible honor. And while there's so many differences in between feature films and student films, I think at the core they're the same. Just be patient, take one step at a time, because I think that's how great movies happen. Well, I think I'm off to post-production now, and thank you for taking this journey with me.